Welcome to the Big Play Cleveland show presented by FanDuel. I'm Gabriella Cruz alongside Chris McNeil, Nick Padone, and a shout out to our producer Ryan Smith as always. Guys, well, first of all, I think the most exciting part of the weekend was Winter Olympics. I don't know about you. I know we're going to talk All-Star Game and the format, what we think, and a little bit of Jalen Tyson, but I was also very captivated by Winter Olympics.
Well, it was perfect for me. Lined up very well with the McNeil's annual Holiday Valley trip. We go every single President's Day weekend up there, enjoy beautiful Ellicottville, New York. Nobody was hurt this year.
Nice.
They had some large watch parties up there on the slopes, which was really cool to see for a lot of the events. So, yeah, you saw a lot of jerseys, a lot of USA jerseys, a lot of Canada jerseys, of course, because you're up there not too far from Buffalo, not too far from the border up there. So everybody was hyped about the Olympics. They had it on everywhere. So I caught a little bit of it, Nick. Did you watch much of the Olympics?
Of course. Well, similar to Gab, my preference fell in line with what NBC decided to do, and that was flex NBA All-Star Weekend out of prime time for pre-recorded Olympic coverage. The Olympics are out there in Italy, which are hours away, in front of us, and that coverage that you watch in primetime on TV is on a tape delay. So the NBA All-Star festivities start at 5 p.m. Winter Olympics Day and their primetime slot. A lot of good stuff. The curling, obviously, there been some controversy about touching the granite on the curling, the figure skating. Our guy Ilya from the US of A put the choke collar on and wasn't able to get the job done. So high drama out there in Italy for the Olympics. And it was a good weekend to tune into all of it.
Yeah, I felt for him. He's only 21 years old, and I think that he was so hyped up that I could see why he maybe got in his head there at the end, because they were just hyping him up. His earlier stuff was flawless, and then he probably just became aware of the moment and psyched himself out.
And afterwards, he absolutely blasted Team USA figure skating or whatever for not putting him on the Beijing team. He said on TV, if I would have been in Beijing, that wouldn't have happened. We need more petty like that out of all our athletes. Maybe more of our athletes need to take a book out of figure skating, where immediately after you go out there and blow a big performance like that, you get out there and you know what you do? You take no accountability and you just blame everybody else. We need more of that in sports.
That's the lack of life experience
I'll
there.
tell you the problematic part about the Olympics, though, is when you're actually at the slopes and watching the Olympics, you think you could do it. It's one thing to be watching the Olympics in your living room and be like, oh, okay, I think I could do this. But when you're at the slopes, you see the ladies going through the moguls, the guys going through the moguls. You say, I could do that with my knees together. You go out and try it. Ladies and gentlemen, I am here to tell you, you cannot do it. I cannot do it. It's amazing what they have done. I was lucky enough not to have hurt myself, though, at the slopes this weekend.
Watching that one in particular, I couldn't help but question, why is that even an event?
The moguls?
With the knees, the thing.
Oh yeah, it's amazing.
I don't get it. I don't feel like it's very natural at all. All the rest is speed and elegance and athleticism, and this one's just let's just try to nail our knees as many times in a row and then do a flip. It's so bizarre to me.
Yeah, and having done it, it's just amazing what they can do to go through that quickly. You don't realize how easy it is to hurt yourself going through moguls like that. And
some
to be
of those
able to
spills,
do it just without even a thought from those folks, it's just amazing.
There was somebody who flipped backwards over one of those things, and it was such a hard fall. I think she got right back up and finished backwards, because it just propelled his craziness. Yeah, we couldn't do any of those things. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be back with Big Play Cleveland and our headlines ahead. Our Cleveland headlines are brought to you by Smart Choice Bath. It's the perfect time to remodel your bathroom, and right now, Smart Choice Baths is giving you $1,250 off your bathroom projects, plus a free luxury upgrade to add comfort and style. And just for Big Play listeners, you'll save an additional 10% on your project. So don't wait. Visit them at smartchoicebaths.com or give them a call at 844-GET-SMART to schedule your free consultation today. Smart Choice Baths, where luxury meets affordability. All right, gang, we're checking in on our Browns here and the defensive coordinator search that continues. They're reportedly down to 3 finalists for their open defensive coordinator job here. Nick, do you have an inkling of where we might be leaning?
I mean, this is just bleeding on. We're on day 10 of defensive coordinator search watch. Chris, you bring up, Jimmy Haslam said after they fired Kevin Stefanski that the next 120 days was going to be pivotal for the organization. The head coaching search took over 20 days, and now the defensive coordinator search is approaching double-digit days as well, as we are on day number 10. I thought, the proven, experienced NFL tenured coach in Todd Monken would have his affairs in order. If Schwartz were to leave, I thought they would have had a plan B that they were able to fulfill a little bit easier. Evidently not the case, as this has certainly bled on, and ultimately I think it ends up being Corey Unlin, the Houston Texans passing game coordinator. Yeah. But we'll see exactly who they hire. It's going to come down in the next day or two.
I'd be interested to see, whether they think about giving the job to Jason Tarver as well. You have the internal candidate there. You saw what he did with JOK, then Carson Schwessinger. Now he's a guy who I'm leaning towards right now for the organization. But ultimately, I would just like to see somebody get in-house so we can get rolling with this new coaching staff.
What do you think happens with Jim Schwartz?
Well, I think it just continues on in the background, right? He's under contract right now. They're going to try and move that contract if possible, try and trade it away for draft picks. But I think that's just going to remain, and it's just going to sit there for a while.
Yeah. So that Mary Kay Cabot had some awesome reporting. The NFLPA and their collective bargaining, whatever, you technically can't even trade a coordinator. So Jim, enjoy sitting at home, dude. Yeah. His decision to conduct himself the way that he did is so wild, because if his goal was to become a head coach, he could have returned to the Browns as a defensive coordinator, had another stellar season with Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward, and gotten hired somewhere else. But he set himself up now to sit at home for 2 years. It's a level of pettiness that I respect from the Browns, that they retain the rights to his contract, because he did strong arm this entire process. At least he tried to. I would exercise the contract, the option year on the contract. You're sitting at home for 2 years, Jim. Good luck. Be a defensive coordinator at age 63 and try to become a head coach off that.
So just to be clear, because I wasn't understanding this, so we cannot
trade a coordinator. You can trade a head coach. You can't trade a coordinator.
Wow, that's an interesting.
So they retain the rights to just keep him around, but not working, and he can't go work anywhere else either, unless they let him out of that contract.
Interesting. Maybe
interesting.
There's some jobs in and around Berea that he could do. They could just keep him on staff there, kind of, I don't know, helping out in the food concession area, something.
Well, that would be funny.
Make some use out
he
of him.
could be another talking head on our show.
There you go. Come on over to Big Play.
I'm sure he's got plenty to say.
Okay, do you guys think Myles, Denzel, and Schwessinger should have a say?
I think Myles will have a say. I think he probably should. But I think just like anything else, you take that input and then you make a decision. It's not like he's driving the decision. I think you take the input from guys like that.
Agreed. And the fact that they already stated that they want to keep the scheme intact, I do think that's the more important issue here. Keep the scheme intact. I think Tarver would. I think Unlin would. I think all of your prime candidates are going to keep the scheme intact. So just pick somebody.
Let's take a break. We'll be back with more of our Cleveland headlines right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland show as we continue our Cleveland headlines here and talking Cavs, the All-Star weekend. Donovan Mitchell led Team Stripes in scoring with 6 points in the All-Star Game tournament final yesterday. His team lost to the other USA team, the Stars, but what did you think of that new format?
Seems to have brought some interest. I can tell from the buzz from social media. People would like to see a more competitive game. Obviously we saw what the All-Star game had become, which was essentially no defense, just chucking up threes, not doing a whole lot of anything else. And now you've got guys who genuinely are going out there and at least giving a little bit of an effort towards winning.
Yeah, shout out to Victor Wembanyama. A lot of the guys propped him up after the game, that he was the one that kind of led the front line of taking it seriously, and then they saw Wemby was going to take it seriously. Everybody else followed suit. Super underwhelming All-Star weekend for the Cavs. When you factor in Jalen Tyson played really well in Rising Stars, but didn't get that great opportunity. Donovan Mitchell scores 6 points in super limited minutes there in the All-Star game. Gets to play alongside LeBron James, though, and gives us a look into into what next season will look like for the Cavs. So some really cool stuff that comes out of it, but really for us in Northeast Ohio, kind of an underwhelming All-Star weekend.
Yeah, Donovan was also in the three-point contest where he finished, was it fourth? Yeah, fourth. But it was cool. He was wearing Jalen Tyson's jersey. What did you think about that?
You know, when I think about the Cavs and the three-point, it'd be nice to just see them participate in a three-point contest. With Sam Merrill, Jalen Tyson, you have the 2 and 3 percentage from a percentage
Money
standpoint.
Merrill should be in this thing.
Yeah, three-point shooters in the league right now. Put Donovan Mitchell out there. I mean, you could make up a good Cavs, like threesome right there, and I put that up against anybody else in the league.
Do you think that Jalen Tyson should be getting a little more attention than he is? In that Rising Stars tournament, he did lead the way with 10 points, but just from a national attention perspective in the season that he's been having.
Kind of glad that he's not, to be honest. Like, I do think he could be a secret weapon of sorts, especially come time for the NBA postseason. You know, we've spent so much time, especially the last few years, talking about playoff risers and playoff fallers. Darius Garland was a playoff faller. He was bad in the playoffs. He was always injured. Jared Allen, notoriously, now he's played better the last couple of games with James Harden, but notoriously, he fades when the moment gets big. You hope that Schroeder, who's played in championship teams before, both in the NBA and also in the FIBA ranks, can help be a playoff riser. You hope maybe Keon Ellis, just because of his mentality and the way that he seems wired, could be one of those playoff risers. But when you're talking about mentality and guys that are willing to do what it takes to win on that kind of playoff stage, Jalen Tyson seems to be one of these fearless guys that's willing to say whatever comes to mind, that's willing to be relentless when he's out there on the court. So I hope that he kind of continues to fly under the radar for these last 30-some games, and that he could really break through come playoff time.
Yeah,
and he's got time, right? I think we don't have a whole lot of patience sometimes for these guys. I remember back in 2012, Kyrie Irving, he was the first pick for us, and still he goes to the skills challenge, didn't perform particularly well, comes back the next year, wins the three-point, and people are saying, oh, he's not getting the respect nationally. Well, give him some time. Jalen Tyson was the 20th pick, right, of 2024. So give him some time. He'll get some respect. Just let him fall into the fold of this team that has playoff aspirations.
How about this? In other NBA news, Adam Silver was floating out the idea of abolishing the rookie draft to eliminate tanking. Do you think this is a good idea or realistic?
So my visceral reaction was, no, this is a horrible idea. Because sitting here in Cleveland, what are the chances we're going to be able to attract these guys as they come into the league? But then I started thinking about the organization that we've got here, what Dan Gilbert's been able to put together in Cleveland. And this is an organization that players will want to play for. We've seen that before. We've seen it with Donovan Mitchell right now. You know, these are guys, you know, James Harden was excited to be here. So these guys coming into the league, even though it might not be, you know, the sexy Miami, LA, New York, we're still an organization that I think could attract talent. So I'm not completely against it, Nick. My visceral reaction was, no, we can't do it. But then I started to think about it, and I thought, we've got a lot here in Cleveland with the organization the Cavs have put together.
You know, tanking is a massive issue, and they've got to figure out something. And the old saying goes, drastic times call for drastic measures, and this would certainly be a drastic measure, just abolishing the NBA draft altogether. But when you've got a third of the league that isn't even trying to win basketball games, yeah, tanking is a pretty massive issue. I would almost try, before I go to the extreme of abolishing the draft, I would almost go the soccer route. Relegate some of these teams. New Orleans Pelicans, you haven't been serious in a decade. Halfway through the season at the All-Star break, that's it for you. Your season's over. You get to go play in some consolation bracket, kind of like fantasy football. You know, some of these teams that don't want to take winning seriously, the Utah Jazz, your season's over. You don't get to sell tickets for 30, you know, some games to finish the regular season here. You're done. I would go like a soccer route of relegating some of these unserious teams and making them play in a consolation bracket. Maybe that replaces the NBA draft lottery, where you have the teams playing in what technically is a crap bowl, two bad teams facing each other to win the number 1 overall pick. I could see that being something better for the fans.
That's kind of cool.
Because the current product is awful. Like, imagine if you were a fan of the Utah Jazz and they're getting ready to play the Chicago Bulls. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think there has to be a punitive component to this, because if you have a bad organization and you're not gifted one of these top talents every single year, you can just skate and your whole fan base is the one that's held captive. So they've got to be able to do something to ownership, to organizations that aren't able to get themselves up to at least a midline over time.
What do you think about the NBA possibly expanding? Adam Silver also discussed that possibility, and if you like it, what cities do you think would be a good look?
I don't like it. I'm at the point now with sports. Give me less, give me more scarcity. There's just so much of teams, games, everything. I am now at the point where you could start dialing that back. I'm not in favor of expanding to 2 more teams.
I could give you one. Seattle is an absolute no-brainer. They deserve to have their team back. That, reminds me a little bit of what we had here at the Browns. They care about their Supersonics up there. They deserve to have the Sonics back. You could miss me on Vegas, though. Vegas is not a sports town.
It's a transient
town. Everybody's trying to turn Vegas into a sports town. The A's are going to Vegas. Obviously, the Raiders in Vegas. To be able to support 3 professional sports teams, you got to be a little bit more of a tourist town. You got to have people that actually care and are invested to be able to invest in these teams. And I don't know that Vegas really has the ecosystem for it. It's obviously the entertainment capital of the world. It's the fight capital of the world, and I think that plays for boxing and MMA and UFC. I don't know that it plays the same for the traditional American sports. I'd keep basketball out of Vegas, me personally.
All right, fair enough. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland show. Today's featured interview is brought to you by Garage Beer. Garage Beer is the perfect beer for any occasion. It's small batch, no frills, no bitterness. It's just beer that tastes like beer. And the garage is always open with Garage Beer. We're welcoming on a very special guest, friend of show. He's site manager for Fear the Sword and co-host of the Junkyard Pod, Jackson Flickinger. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me on.
And we were just complimenting your very aesthetic background and your experience with the Netherlands. So thanks for sharing some of that, too. Aesthetic.
Makes us a little bit more worldly here on the show.
Yes. And speaking of worldly, we actually want to get your take right off the bat here about the new All-Star Game format and, if USA versus the world had any juice for you.
I thought it was great. The All-Star Game has been a pretty bad event, I would say, in recent memory. There was that 2020 game that was really good, but most of the time it's pretty bad. I thought yesterday was fun for the first 3 quarters. The last game kind of ran out of steam, but I really liked it. If you could guarantee that level of effort every year, I think that this is a winning format. But as we've seen with other previous format changes, the second year, the effort kind of falls down some, and then once the effort falls, then you're just kind of back in the same spot. So we'll see how it goes next year. But, this year was a win, and I think that's, all the NBA cares about at this moment.
So as we roll back into the regular season now off the All-Star break, the Cavs climbed up to the 4 seed in the East right now after those big acquisitions. How high do you see them climbing right now, and what do you think the East looks like in terms of a playoff lineup?
I think that they can get. I try to talk myself into maybe they could pass the Pistons. The Pistons have a harder schedule than the Cavs. The Cavs have the 5th easiest schedule after the All-Star break, but really there's just not enough time for me to really think that that's possible. You would need a Detroit Tigers like collapse down the stretch for the Cavs to catch them. But I do think that the 2nd seed is within reach, and I do think that there's a very clear hierarchy in the Eastern Conference. You have Cleveland, Detroit, Boston, and the Knicks. So I think that those 4 teams are really the best 4 teams in the conference, and I don't really see a situation where a team like Toronto or a team like Orlando really sneaks into the second round. So it should be setting up for a good second round. But yeah, I really see Boston, New York, and Detroit as kind of being that upper echelon of the Eastern Conference.
Jackson, in your opinion, after the James Harden trade, is this team in a better spot to win an NBA championship now than they were a month ago with Darius Garland still on the roster?
I think without question, I think James Harden, um, there was a lot of uncertainty with Darius Garland, especially with his toe. We never really saw him play, I would say, close to the level that he was, at his best last season. And this Cavs team, especially with Donovan Mitchell, you really need more of a pure point guard type player to sort of keep things going. The Cavs tried to run more of the offense through Evan Mobley at the start of the season, but quickly pulled the plug on that. But as you've seen with just plugging James Harden in, it allows Donovan Mitchell to basically get back to what he does best, which is just be an efficient scorer. I think we've seen that through the first 3 games that Harden has been here. Harden gives you more size in the backcourt. He's someone who's really good at handling double teams. These are things that the Cavs, particularly their offense, really struggled with, even when Darius Garland was 100% in the playoffs. So I see them as a much better playoff team. And I know that sounds a little funny to say because we all know the history with James Harden. And I think some of the James Harden playoff collapses are a little overblown, but there's also a reason why he's got that reputation. But I think that this pairing with Donovan Mitchell should really bring the best out of James Harden. And so far, I think we can say that James Harden has brought the best out of Donovan Mitchell. And I'm excited to see how that looks once they actually have a couple practices under their belt in more than 3 games.
How do you anticipate Evan Mobley in the mix with all these guys?
I think that's the biggest question mark to me, because James Harden has never played in a system that has 2 bigs, and Evan Mobley's shooting has fallen off a little bit this year compared to last year. If this was last year, I would feel a little more comfortable just because Mobley seemed like he was last year more comfortable spacing the floor and being an off-ball shooter. That hasn't really translated as much this year. I anticipate Kenny Atkinson, even though Jared Allen has been playing good recently, Kenny Atkinson really does like to close with smaller lineups. So I would anticipate them closing games a lot of time with Mobley at center and without Allen on the floor. So that would be an easier way to get Mobley going. But I really don't know how that starting lineup is going to work. I think the Harden and Allen fits a lot cleaner because Allen's a better screen setter. I think he's a better finisher inside off of pick and rolls. Evan Mobley is a better player and great at a lot of things offensively, but I really don't know how that's all going to look. I'm excited to see it. Harden is a great offensive player. He's a very smart basketball player. I don't think he gets the credit for being, thinking the game as well as he does. So I think that he's going to find ways to get Mobley involved, but it's not as clean of a fit as it was with Jared Allen.
Speaking of fit, number 1, are we ever going to see Max Strus again? And when we do, and if we do, what's his fit going to be in this new look Cavs team?
I thought that we would be getting more of an update by the All-Star break than we have. I'm getting a little skeptical of whether or not Max Strus is going to come back and really have a meaningful impact on this team. I think that Strus is a good fit, within the starting lineup, just because he does a lot of, he's a good off-ball shooter. I think he's a better defender than a Sam Merrill. I think he does a lot of little things well, and he's also a great off-ball mover. I think he would pair well with Max Strus. With James Harden, but it's, we're running out of season. There's only 1/3 of the season still left. It's hard to get everyone integrated, and we just don't know what we're going to see from Max Strus. So right now, I'm sort of not factoring Max Strus into my playoff calculations, and we'll see if that changes.
Is that maybe why they've went out and did the Schroeder and Keon Ellis thing first? And how do you anticipate those 2 guys are going to factor into the equation, especially come playoff time?
I think you can clearly see Ellis as sort of a replacement for Okoro and Schroeder as sort of a Ty Jerome replacement, because basically the experiment this year with Lonzo Ball really just didn't work out as they envisioned. So I kind of see those two acquisitions as kind of filling that void. But Sam Merrill, I think, has gotten more and more comfortable playing with, the starters. I think that he's really stepped up, and I think he's, would be more comfortable playing like a Max Strus type role within this team. But Schroeder and Ellis have been great. I'm really interested to see what Ellis looks like once he's getting a little more minutes. Kenny Atkinson mentioned a few times that he wasn't sure. He didn't really know a lot about Ellis as a player before he came to Cleveland. So he's still learning who he is, and I think we're all still learning who he is. But it's hard not to get excited about somebody who shoots that well off ball, is comfortable shooting that well off ball, and is really disruptive defensively. So he's somebody who I think as the season goes on, we're going to, he could be getting a bigger and bigger role, especially as, the coaching staff gets more comfortable with who he is as a player.
Jackson, thank you so much for your time. Go ahead, plug where we can all find your work.
Yeah, just fearthesword.com. We have a lot, me and Tony Pesta basically run the site, do a lot of work there. So please be sure to check that out. And then also check out the Junkyard Pod with me, Tony Pesta, and Corey Walsh.
Great. Well, I'll see you soon, I'm sure, at one of these games. All right, we're taking a quick break. We'll be back with more Big Play Cleveland right after this. Welcome back to the Big Play Cleveland show. It's time for our fill in the blank segment. Our first blank for you guys. Blank will be the most important Cavalier for the second half of this season.
I'm going to be honest. I absolutely hate this question because I've seen Donovan Mitchell, take on the load so much this season that he's going to be very important to this team. But I want to see him become less important. I want to see the James Harden and everybody else on this team really stepping it up so that we don't have one guy we're saying, hey, he's got to carry the load. Or if he doesn't have a big night, we're going to be in trouble in the playoffs. So I want to see this thing kind of get mixed around a little bit.
I'm going to say Evan Mobley is going to be the Cavs' most important player because of what Chris just outlined. I know that Donovan can do it. I know that James Harden can do it. I actually have seen 3 games of Jared Allen passing the smell test with James Harden as his point guard. Evan Mobley, you got to come back and pass that same smell test, brother, because James Harden is elevating the play of Jared Allen in real time, and Jared Allen is going to continue to be a benefactor of these pick and rolls where Harden's willing to dump off lobs to Jared Allen. Mobley, you got to be ready for it. Chris Fedor had some phenomenal data that outlined that Mobley has been, instead of pick and rolling, pick and popping. Enough of that. I get that you got the 3-pointer in your bag now. Roll to that rim because you got a guy in James Harden that's going to be looking for you down there to catch some of those lobs. Mobley's got to evolve into the player that we want him to be if this team has any semblance of chasing the Eastern Conference Finals or the NBA Finals this season. And if he doesn't, I'd expect him to be firmly in some trade conversations this summer, especially if it means somebody like Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Interesting. Yeah, I definitely think it'll be very telling when Mobley comes back, how he fits in, how James is able to elevate him if he can do that. I also think, and not that it's a hot take at all, but he might not be top of your list for who needs to have the best second half, but some of what we've seen out of Money Merrill, like his catch and shoot, his sharp shooting is just incredible, and it's a ripple effect on the momentum that the team gets too. I mean, we literally saw them almost stop the game the other day when Merrill had his career high 32 points. He was 9 of 10 behind the arc. It was just crazy. He was going off, and he had the whole arena go nuts. And I think the team really gravitates toward the type of leadership and energy that Sam brings. So I almost think a sleeper choice for that is let's keep Money Merrill hot and see how that affects the whole rest of this roster. The Cavs game against the Thunder this Sunday will be.
I don't want to overhype it because this is still regular season, but I think it could be a nice springboard, kind of what I thought Christmas was going to be against the Knicks. When we thought we had them down, it's like, okay, now we're going to roll. That could be what comes out of this game against OKC because we've got the new roster together. This is really our chance to go up against the best, up against the champions, show that we belong. We know our aspirations are way beyond anything in the regular season, so I'm not overhyping it. but it could be a nice way to start the second half of this season.
And it's a phenomenal measuring stick game because you open up on an All-Star break a little bit softer. You've got the Brooklyn Nets, then you've got the Charlotte Hornets. You can get fat against those teams. They're not doing anything come playoff time, but the Oklahoma City Thunder are the champs. They've been phenomenal throughout this regular season. So if the Cavs want to prove that they belong on that same basketball court, you got to have a good showing against OKC, because if you don't, the overarching sentiment is going to be that you're not a championship caliber team this season.
Yeah, that has the capacity to damper all this excitement that we've got with these new trade acquisitions, so they really got to show up for this game. The home field advantage at the Browns' new indoor stadium will be.
Yeah, now they've talked a little bit more about that dog pound, and I'll tell you where the vision's at for that. It's down in Columbus. It's with the Crew, the Nordeca. When the Haslams ended up saving the Crew and buying them and building this beautiful new stadium down in Columbus, they created a space for the most hardcore fans. They already had it in the old stadium. They brought it to the new stadium, made it the Nordeca. You've been to those games before. You see the signs. Just they playing music the entire time, playing drums. They've got smoke. They've got chants. They've got everything. And they want to catch a little bit of that spirit in the new stadium for the Browns, because they know the dog pound isn't the same as it used to be when Hanford and guys were barking and getting them engaged out at Old Municipal. That was the old school dog pound, and it's lost a little bit, and it's corporate now a little bit more than what it was back in the day. Maybe they can recapture that the same way they did with the Crew down in Columbus, because that's a fantastic atmosphere, and hopefully that's going to translate to Brook Park.
It is. The Crew atmosphere is absolutely phenomenal, and you guys know I've traveled, and I was just such a proponent of this dome stadium because all of these other dome stadiums are awesome home field advantages because of how loud it gets in there. Yeah. Even Los Angeles, you talk about sports towns and Vegas not being one. LA isn't really one either, but that Rams stadium for Rams Browns, it was loud in there because similar to Browns, it's so close to the airport, they had to build it down into the ground. So it creates kind of almost an echo chamber up, and it gets loud in there. So I think it is going to be a really nice home field advantage for the Browns. US Bank Stadium in Minneapolis is another one that I've been to. That's loud. Atlanta, Mercedes-Benz Dome gets loud. So all of these dome stadiums, there's nowhere for the sound to go. We know our Browns fans get up for these games. I do think it'll be a really nice home field advantage and something that they might not have in their current arrangement down here on their lakefront.
Just I'm pleading with ownership, do not price out all of the fans. Do not price out your most ardent fans with this new stadium. Make sure that we still got access for folks to come to support the team, because that's going to be necessary even at this new luxurious stadium there in Brook Park.
All right, Guardians, the spring training schedule is underway here. First games are this Saturday versus the Reds and the Brewers. I'm most excited for blank this spring training.
Just straight up baseball. You know, I'm done. Every year we sit here and I say we didn't sign anybody, we didn't do anything. The Guardians go out there, somehow overachieve with the talent that they've got. They bring up young guys. We talk about the train going from Columbus to Cleveland. They manage to do that every single season. Even when we think they're out of it in August, they're not really out of it, right? So I'm excited to see this team back on the field. I don't know what they're going to end up doing. They're probably going to end up winning 80-plus games out of nowhere once again, like they did last year. But I'm excited. You know, it's starting to warm up. It's 55 degrees as we sit here today. Nick, nothing gets better than those warmer temperatures and some Guardians ball out there.
CDL, Chase DeLauder in spring training. I'm excited to see him. You mentioned the youth. They're going to need to lean on a lot of those young players and prospects that they think so highly of. Zach Meisel, who does a great job covering the guards for The Athletic, put together a really nice feature on Chase DeLauder, and that his drive home after the playoffs were over and the Guardians lost, he listened to his walk-up song, the Take Me Home Country Roads, for an hour. And he broke down in his car and he cried because he realized, I finally got to debut with the Cleveland Guardians after such a long run and overcame so many injuries throughout that road to the minors to make that major league debut. Like, it's a guy that I know everybody in Cleveland is pulling for, and it feels like he really wants to find that major league success with the big club this year. So I'm looking forward to watching Chase DeLauder.
Yeah. We've got to take a break. We'll be back with our big play bets right after this.
Our big play bets on the Big Play Cleveland show presented by FanDuel. Have you ever wanted to go to the NBA Finals? Well, now's your chance, courtesy of our friends at FanDuel. All you have to do is use your profit boost on an NBA future, and you'll be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for two. NBA futures let you lock in your pick for who you think is going to go all the way. Whether it's a team to win the championship or a conference title, visit FanDuel.com/bigplay to get started. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Must be 21 plus and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com. Some NBA Finals futures boosted. Feel like in Northeast Ohio, the Cavs will be a pretty popular bet, and hopefully somebody from our show will get that free trip to the NBA Finals. It would be pretty cool if it's a fan of the show.
Ooh.
Pretty sweet. And I'll tell you what, the vibes have totally changed with James Harden coming in. I think there's that renewed optimism in the team right now. Coming off of the All-Star break, it'll be exciting to see what they do the rest of this season, then on into the playoffs, and hopefully culminating with a big series there come June.
Chris, currently the betting favorite to get out of the Eastern Conference on FanDuel are Cleveland Cavaliers.
Wow.
So they're the favorites. FanDuel's giving a free trip to somebody to go to the finals, and hopefully our Cavs are the representatives.
See, everybody says we don't get enough respect sometimes, right? And then all of a sudden we start getting the respect there and odds-on favorite to come out of the East, and I start getting a little bit nervous, right? And I say, whoa, let's not get the cart in front of the horse. We still got a lot to figure out. So it'd be an interesting second half of the season, but I kind of like to have it both ways. Get enough disrespect to have that chip on your shoulder, but don't quite crown us.
Over 3-1 odds right now to get out of that Eastern Conference as the betting favorite. You're still getting some decent value. Cavs back in the NBA Finals, June basketball in Cleveland. It all does just sound right, but now they've got to live up to those expectations, especially with Harden on the roster.
I don't think Cavs fans could handle it any other outcome. You know, it's got to happen. It's got to happen now.
Well, like I said, this is a move really pushing the chips in, so let's see what they can do.
Let's talk Guardians futures. FanDuel has the Guards with the third best odds to win the AL Central at plus 430. Is this a little disrespectful considering we're back-to-back division champs?
If you take a straw poll of most of our fans, we'd probably say, yeah, we could finish second, third, or first, like we seem to pull out of the magic out of the hat every single year. We're able to do it by the end. I don't know how the team does it, so I don't know how you could call it disrespectful when going in we haven't made any big offseason moves at all. I mean, I'm glad that we extended Jose Ramirez. We got some help out there in the pen, but they've told us, hey, we're just going to rely on our young guys, and hopefully they can hit. We'll see what happens. It's just like, okay, we're all nodding along. Let's see if that happens. And if that happens, we could have a great season.
Yeah.
Bunch of young guys coming together, hitting at the same time. That could be great. Otherwise, it could go the other way really quickly, Nick, and I hope it doesn't.
Right. If it doesn't, you're exactly where you were when you found yourself in that 15.5 game hole to the Detroit Tigers, where everybody was beside themselves because there was no offense. We were talking about how could they do this to Jose Ramirez. We were having a conversation. I remember sitting at this desk. Are the Cleveland Guardians wasting Jose Ramirez's career? Like, if you find yourself in another 15.5 game hole, those are the same ugly conversations that are going to show up again because they didn't do anything to support Jose or to, provide Jose with a little bit of support in the batting order behind him. So you hope that Chase DeLauder, George Valera, maybe Travis Bazzana at some point this season can provide a little bit of spark to this offense because you're going to need it from those guys. Otherwise, it's going to be Stephen Kwan. We know is going to be good leading this thing off, but you don't know how long he's going to be around this organization. So where will the offense come? That's the big question for me as we look at these betting odds. And if you're talking about a little pizza money bet, that's pretty good value on the Guards, really, to win the American League Central, because by hook or by crook, Chris, you said it, they find a way to do it, and they just did it the last 2 years. So you're going to give me the third best odds? Okay, I guess I'll take it when it comes to the Guardians.
It's not an official bet on FanDuel, but our home opener is April 3rd. What do you think the chances of sunshine and good weather are?
Oh, if I was going to the game, it'd be 0. It'd be snow, it'd be rain every time I go to that darn game. Outside of the year we had the eclipse a couple of years ago.
That was such a magical
The
time.
eclipse was a great day.
Like,
that was the most
what are
amazing day I've ever had of baseball, was watching that, the players watching the eclipse on the stadium field. You know, you see the eclipse on the scoreboard as it's going through Indianapolis. It was just magical. My boys were there. I've got Grady in studio here today. He was watching the eclipse with me, so that was magical. But all the other times I've ever gone to the opener, it's always crappy. So I'm not going this year, so I'll bet it's gonna be nice.
I went last year, not going back this year, just out of the threat that the same thing could happen. I was out of there in like the 6th inning. It was Arctic. It was like unbearably cold. The Big Play Sports Network putting on a pretty big event. More details to come in downtown Cleveland for opening day. So Gab, hopefully the temperature is whatever the over will be. Could we get over 50 degrees?
I'd like to manifest that. Last
year,
year, I remember I wore my long guards puffy coat until like the end of May. No joke. It was cold for a while last year. So we might be due for a nice home opener. Like you said, Chris, with the eclipse, like the eclipse season. Jose has the 8th best odds to win AL MVP. What do you think? Is that fair? What do you think his
It's
projection
crazy.
for this year
And
is?
I know like Sarah Lang, has done like awesome data reporting on the fact that like it's almost getting to the point. Jose's been so good for so long. It's almost getting to the point where he will like statistically be one of the best players to have played his position as long as he has. That has never won an MVP. Just because of the numbers that he's put up and the fact that every single year it just feels like there's somebody that's somehow better. Last year it was Judge as well as Cal Riley, who are just hitting the summer of home runs, that surpass what Jose Ramirez did in Cleveland with the 30 homers and the 30 stolen bases. So I'd love to see Jose do it. 8th best odds, again, really good value odd for a guy that usually is a top 3 in voting any which way that you dice it up. But with Judge and Riley, like there's just a lot of competition for that award in the American League.
Is he almost too consistent as a brand where people just look at him? Well, and then you got Jose out there in Cleveland. He's doing his thing. The Cleveland's doing what they do, and he's going to hit a lot. He's going to hit a lot of home runs. He's going to be a real spark plug. That's kind of what he does. And it's like we've read this story so many times. We want to give the MVP to something that's a little bit different than that. And I think that kind of hurts him ultimately, which is kind of a weird way to think about it, that ultimately his consistency and how dominant he's been over time actually kind of works against him a little bit, I think, in the eyes of the national voters.
I also think Jose got snubbed for this 2026 World Baseball Classic roster move. Did you guys hear about that? The Dominican Republic selected Manny Machado as their primary starting third baseman over Jose, despite like Jose objectively had a better 2025 season.
That's fine. Keep them rested. I don't really mind. I know the owners are under big fire right now with this World Baseball Classic because a lot of these guys, especially Steve Cohen, the Mets, pay a lot of money for his players, don't necessarily want him playing in the WBC. I don't mind it. I don't mind Jose not playing. I'll say it. Sure, it'll give me a little bit less of an incentive to tune into some of those games, and it would be cool to see Jose play on that global stage for his brand and obviously for the brand of the Cleveland Guardians. But selfishly, I don't mind it. Keep your 30 home runs to take place over there at the corner of Carnegie and Ontario. I don't care what happens.
Yeah,
World
absolutely.
Baseball
It's a long season. And he's not a spring chicken anymore. This is a veteran player. You want to keep these guys as well rested as possible. I think there's way too many games in the season as is. So keep him in Cleveland. All its production right here for us.
Speaking of how many games in the season, FanDuel has the Guardians over-under for wins this year set at 78.5. How many wins do you think we'll get this season? It was 88 this past year, 92 the season prior.
Yeah, I love that 78 number because I think they can go right over that. I really do. I mean, there's nothing on paper that I point to and say, this is the reason this team's going to do it. I'm just saying, I just point to the building over there. There's some magic down there on the south side. Somehow they're able to get it done every year, and that's the reason that I place my bet as the over on 78.5 here.
Yeah, 78.5 feels low because it feels like even on like a down year for the Guardians, they could find a way to hit 79. So I like the over there as well, as I usually bet the over on the Guardians win total every year, and it usually does find a way to make you a couple dollars at the end of baseball season.
All right, well, as we get ready for spring training, which, by the way, anybody going to spring training?
Not that I know of yet. I'm going to Indy first. I'll be at the Combine next week, and then maybe spring training the week after. We'll see.
All right. Well, to all the fans who are headed out there, have fun, enjoy yourselves, get us some wins. Tell us, live tweet us at Big Play. Tell us who you've got your eye on. This is a wrap for our show. And before we get out of here, just want to remind you that the Top Dog Show is every Tuesday. You can tune in at 7 p.m. for a full breakdown of everything Cleveland Browns with Hanford Dixon, Josh Cribbs, and Phil Taylor. Catch it live on X, YouTube, or the Big Play app. That's the Top Dog Show only on the Big Play Sports Network. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.